You are now listening to Charlie Loves Soul.
Hey, for the fourth month of the installation and closing out the Filipino Heritage podcast that we've put together for the month of October, we talk about the Philippine hospitality, but me and Russell actually dive pretty deep once we started talking about like our parents, meaning some of the parents were really spoiling, not necessarily when it comes to money, but more on giving way too much attention and not enough freedom, therefore being enablers and helicopter parents. We also discuss how it affects even people we know, whether, albeit they be peers or friends, and what happens is they lose all ability to change careers, be independent, and they're stuck. So this is a real interesting podcast for those of you that goes all across the globe, even though it is meant in the spirit for Filipinos. So go to www.plug12.com and don't forget to peep out the fourth episode, and I'll be closing out with the final solo episode in the first week of November. Thanks.
And now, the Monday Blues Podcast.
So we're doing this recording in like this Pulp Fiction manner where it's like, Jay's going to be here. Russ, are you free? Charles is not free. So I don't know how I'm going to piece up this puzzle, but I think I'm going to stick to what we've been doing.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's great.
Thanks, man. And thank you for being on the podcast, Russ. This would not be anything without you, and we planned this in the Philippines, kind of.
Crazy. We did plan it in
2017?
Wow. Well, I'm glad we're here today.
And it's 2018.
2018.
Holy fuck me.
Oh, end of 2018 almost. Can you
Right.
believe that?
And your birthday's coming up.
Yeah. Thank you. November. So.
Yours is 11/11?
11/22.
11/22, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. 43?
43. Burr months. And in the Philippines, it's Christmas now.
Last September, it was Christmas already.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I kind of miss. I kind of miss being in the Philippines at this time of the year.
It's the best.
It is.
And the traffic is so delicious starting October.
Yeah, that's the part I don't miss at all, but
it's very crispy pata when it comes to the traffic.
Man, this is when all the bazaars are coming up and all the shopping's going on, and you know, which is a great time because I think the Filipino people, they're so like giving. You know, they're so giving in a way where even if they really don't have much, they want to just abot something or give something. You know, even when you like go over to a relative's house or something. I just experienced this the other night. I went over to an old friend of mine, Mark, over in Eagle Rock, and I haven't seen him in like over 10 years, dude. And came by because they just moved to Eagle Rock, and man, like his whole family was welcoming. The dad, the mom, kain anak, kain, go eat. Like they had a whole feast too. Like
sure,
you know, I just popped by, but they had like kare-kare, beefsteak, and they had like
I need to befriend this guy. Pop by every day.
Yeah, dude. And chicken tinola, right? I was so full, bro. And the crazy thing is, the mom was just like, kain ka lang dyan, like just eat there, anak, like, you know, feel at home, you know what I mean? And the dad was like watching the Dodger game because, you know, right now we're in the World Series, right? So they're in the living room, you know, watching the game. They're all into it, but they're like, just go in the kitchen, you know, grab some food, whatever, like, no big deal. And I haven't seen them in like 10 years, dude. And I just felt so welcomed, you know what I mean? Like I just felt like, and they're like, well, you're family.
Is this a high school friend?
Just not even a high school friend. He went, you know what? He went to Daniel Murphy, dude. Class of 96. So I don't know if you were still.
No, I never, because I would have graduated 92.
Okay, yeah. So he knew like some of my buddies, and then I think I met him just through like friends, like recently, you know. And yeah, I was just just talking about like the warmth of Filipinos.
Okay.
And I love that. You know, I love that because it reminds me of my Lola and my mom. You know, growing up, we always had people over, and I just remember we always had food in the kitchen, and it was a good feeling to just have people come over, you know?
So Russ is segging this brilliantly as far as for what we're going to be talking about today. We talked about Crazy Rich Asians, which sparked the timing perfectly because it's the first unionized like version of like all these different types of Asians, Asian Americans, Asians from Asia. And it happened to fall on October, which is Filipino American Heritage Month. So why not put out the podcast at that time, timing-wise? And a lot of things were parallel at that point. The second episode was Crabs in a Barrel, which is something that's common to where we spoke about the bad. But obviously, we are resolute in the purpose of this podcast. Talked about dating, how universally it ties into how it was in the 90s. We played Bobby Brown, and we talked about a dating show where there's self-loathing. So that's part of the Crabs in the Barrel continuum, right? So now we're going to talk about the good.
The good.
So you were alluding to family, and I sent you the notes. But in regards to, I'm just going to read it off for our listening audience, Russ. So first one is hospitable. Second one is family oriented and they respect their elders. Third is hardworking. Fourth one is generous and thoughtful. And then the fifth one is religious and God-fearing. So we'll start with hospitable. First, so you just shared your experience as far as for, you're a friend. What's your friend's name?
Mark.
Can we mention his name?
Yeah,
Is that cool?
Mark.
So you went over to Mark's house, haven't seen him in 10 years, and you got the food, red carpet, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was a warm feeling.
Absolutely.
That's one of the few things I feel is great that transcended from Filipinos from the Philippines, immigrants, and then even just Filipino Americans who are like already second and third generation. It bled through. That's a great thing. In relation to that, the next group of people that I felt were like that are like Kenyans, Ethiopian Americans, like I met through radio.
Yeah.
Exact same thing. I think in general, like Koreans are kind of like that.
Yeah.
Where they try to feed Vietnamese people.
Yeah.
They always ask you like, hey, have you eaten already? Blah, blah, blah. But any other races and cultures that you've experienced that with?
Yeah. I have a lot of, grew up here in LA, like a lot of my Mexican friends, like I'd come over and the mom be making some great
whatever.
Like I just, recent, from experience, a few months ago, we went to my buddy's house and his mom was making barbacoa. And dude, like I came out like so stuffed, bro. And I just popped by just to say what's up. I was with my brother and
barbacoa is a stewed beef, right?
Yeah, like it takes I heard it took hours to just prepare it.
Sure.
And you could feel like when you eat something, you can feel like the love that's put into it.
Yep.
And I think that's why Filipino food is so good because, hey, growing up, like my Lola used to cook for me and like that's where I learned how to cook and she was so adamant about how to cook it. And now I look back and I'm like, that's why it tasted so good. Because she put a lot of love into it,
Yeah, and I feel terrible because I used to want to cook. Like one of the great memories of me spending time with my dad is he taught me how to cook tempura when I was like 9 years old.
Wow.
And my dad ended up owning a Japanese restaurant in the 90s in Fort Bonifacio. And he would say like, hey, the chef is using this method. But I can't cook Filipino food, dude. It takes too long. I'd rather work really hard and buy a feast.
Hey man, that's what's great about living here in LA. There's so many great Filipino spots now.
Yep.
A lot. And which is I think it's a great thing, but yeah, because I remember growing up there was only you could probably count it in your hand, like fingers, like how many was around. But now there's so many, I can't even. So that's a good thing, It's a convenience. You just go, And I think for me personally, it just became a hobby for me to just cook, because man, that was just like my, like in high school, I'd have to go home early just to cook for like the family, help my lola. But now, when I cook, it reminds me of my lola. So I think that's the reason why I like to cook. But it goes back to like our culture where, anytime someone comes over, you feed them. You know what I mean? Like, I remember in the Philippines, the past 3 years, every relative we'd go to, if I'd go with my dad, we'd go to visit somebody, man, we'd like, even if it's a merienda, which is like an afternoon snack, right? Coffee or pandesal with some cheese, dude. Like, there's always food, man.
Right, and I don't know if it's changed from your experience or in general, Russ. Is it still found disrespectful if you deny them like a taste or a treat still, or is that in general? Like you do that to Mexican homes or?
I think yeah, like generally it would show disrespect if you didn't even take any of the offers. You know what I mean? Maybe if you're full or whatever. But I think for them it's kind of like a diss, like, oh, like it's not good enough for you kind of deal. That's just the way I think I was taught,
Yeah, for me, even though, let's say I come and I forget, shit, they're going to offer me food. Even if I'm stuffed, I still eat it. Mm-hmm. I remember being stoned. Okay? Ironically, ate at Sanam Luang, which is, a legendary Thai food place here in Los Angeles. So I ate at Sanam Luang at like 7 p.m. So what does fucko do before he goes to a birthday party? I have 1.5 dishes.
Wow.
So I have the pad see ew and then a protein, which is the garlic chicken.
Oh my God, that's so good.
And they had like 2 fried eggs broken on top. So the dummy that I am, what do? I finish the pad see ew, which is the noodles, which is carb.
And it's a big serving there.
Right.
Sanam, yeah.
And my scumbag 20-year-old thinking is like, no, I'm going to save the chicken because I have rice at home. So I can eat this later tonight, if not tomorrow. I can eat it with rice.
Yeah.
Completely. But the reason why I do that is because in case the food is shitty, I'm full.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but it was a Filipino party. And it was for like a teenager. So it's not like everyone's going to be doing cocaine on the fucking kamagong table next to like a Lapu-Lapu statue, right?
Right.
So I go and I regretted it probably a quarter mile before I got to the house. I was like, that's right, I have to eat. And this is what I did. So I go, okay, I beamed straight for the birthday cake that was already cut, and ice cream and biko, and they had like ginataan.
Yeah.
So I had all of that. They go, okay, I did my time. Hey, you know what? I'm so smart. I had the main course. Now I'm having dessert. I'm good. So this is where I screw myself.
Okay.
So one of the uncles and the mom saw me. It's like, but you're not eating the pancit, the lumpia, the beef machado.
So you have to go back and eat that. Yeah.
You have to eat. This is like quotes.
Yeah.
Charles, you have to eat that. I cooked that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, then it wasn't bought. It was cooked. So I ended up eating the main courses, and then had ice cream at the end.
Wow.
But that's what I love about the hospitality.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Filipino. I'm trying to figure out though. This is a live to tape moment that I'm asking Russ. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think it comes from being punished? But Ethiopian people, I guess they've experienced pain, right? You don't think of Ethiopia as like, oh, what a rich country.
Right. Well, I have my own theory on that.
Sure.
I just think, because, nowadays, it's so convenient just to go down to Seafood City and like either buy an ulam or a meal that's already prepped.
For the non-Filipinos, that means
Like a dish.
A dish.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you can just go to like now they have like grilled city or crispy city. You go to seafood city now and like you can order tapsilog or something in the morning, right? It's ready to go. Or you could just, if you want to cook it yourself, you just go get the fish, get it cleaned, and like, or get like whatever pork or chicken and start chop, right? Take it home and just cook it. But I think way back in the day, right? Maybe centuries ago, you had to actually catch the fish. You actually have to like kill the baboy or the pig or the chicken or slaughter something. Go out in the field and, pick the vegetables and like all this stuff to prepare a meal took a longer time than how it is now, right? And I think to show people your generosity or like your love or your hospitality, to prepare a meal for someone meant a lot back in the day, right? Because there's so much work and effort behind it.
And especially for the poorer people, right?
Exactly.
Who couldn't afford it. They like saved up for that event to
Yeah.
feed people.
Because I still see it nowadays, okay? Like, I still see it nowadays. I've been to some provinces in the past 3 years where it's not 2018 Los Angeles vibe. This is a province that's probably still back in the, early, mid-1900s, right? Where there's not a lot of electricity and stuff. But, man, they would, like, offer, like, caldereta, which is, like, a Filipino dish, from, like, kambing, which is goat that they just slaughtered, right? Or like some adobo or something, or like there was a baptism or a birthday that was happening at that time, and it was a huge deal, dude. It was like a huge deal because they had all this food, right? And even I see it in our culture and there's an annual fiesta in the town or in the city or the barangay, right? And for people living in that location, that's like the highlight of their year, dude.
Yep, it's kind of like how small towns and they just follow like university football.
Yeah.
This is our time.
Yeah,
this
like
is
that.
the Super Bowl of food. Mm-hmm. Essentially.
And you can just go to any house in the barangay and there's gonna be food, bro. Like the doors are open, everybody's in a festive mood. You don't know nobody, and you just walk into any house and they're gonna feed you. So I think, and now for me that was like, whoa, I don't see this in like Burbank, you know what I mean, right?
Sure.
Right? Like it's funny because I don't even know my neighbors in Burbank, bro. Like I've lived there for I think 4 years now, and I'll just randomly say hi or bye to a couple people, but I don't even know their names. I don't even know who they are. I've never been to their home, right? Unlike in the Philippines, man, I know my neighbors' names. Like, sometimes when I'm grilling outside or whatever, they'll come and like hang out and talk to me. You know what I mean? So it's just a different way of life, I think.
I've developed a thought live as we record.
Yeah.
I feel, especially for the impoverished, it's like, you know what? We don't have anything, but this is the one day I get to be generous towards you.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm going to feed you. And I'm happy that you're experiencing my generosity.
I agree with that.
It's something underpinning of that. Then there's the pride behind it. There's something cultural. There's something about your family. Like this is what we do in this house.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is that. I mean, you see it all across the Filipino culture, right? Like where if you haven't met your cousin, but you know that you have a cousin coming to the Philippines, or a cousin coming from the Philippines to America, vice versa. There is an inclination to welcoming them and showing them around town.
Yes.
Immediately.
And I totally agree with that because I'm just getting so many flashbacks of recent experiences where, man, there's so many people I've ran into like that are like quote unquote relatives of mine in the Philippines, and man, I've never met them in my life, or probably once or whatever. And if my dad would take me, man, there's like a huge feast on the table, bro. Right? and I think that's why I love the Philippines so much. It's because I experienced that kind of hospitality more there, and I'm sure it happens here too. Like like that recent thing with my friend Mark, right? But it just goes back to our culture.
And without trying to, because we're trying to paint several paintings. Also, aside from food, it's just what I was trying to lead towards was like, hey, I'll give you time and show you around my area. I'm basically taking my time out just to take you to Disneyland, take you to Universal Studios, show you the Grove.
Right.
I mean, and there's also the other aspect where I experienced this in the 90s, where there wasn't the internet yet, in the early 90s. Classmates of mine would find out that I'm back in Manila for some reason. I got like 3 random phone calls in 1993, like, hey, let's hang out.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
And I haven't spoken to these people in like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of the hospitality, which I think we've hammered pretty well. There's a family orientation.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You also mentioned while we were prepping was respecting their elders. So I'll start first. Like for me, with family orientation, it is a very strong bond to where, like, even your cousins are like pseudo siblings, right? Or they're like your siblings.
Yeah.
And that's very, very strong. Your parents are like gods. They're seen as gods, viewed as gods. They're also judge and jury.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, I'll give one classic example. Like I'll give 2 examples and I'll toss it back to you, Russ. With like my female cousins, whenever we would hang out, if they lived in West Covina or if one moved to San Diego, one lived in Orange County, whenever I would see them, I would make sure like I'm treating them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure, which ties into hospitality. We're gonna go out drinking. Well, I'm for sure bringing like $400 if I hang out with my cousins Marie, Anna, or Christina, aka Teeny. I'm for sure doing that. With my mom and dad, like if you pick them up from the airport, they're coming from Manila. Boy, it's like you're their butler.
Yeah.
Right? Don't carry anything. I'll pick you up. I'll be there on time. I've made reservations. Dad, you want to go to Ruth Chris's? Mom, I know you want to go to this massage place in Koreatown. It's all set.
Yeah.
So there's that honor and respectability behind it. Well, what are some of the examples that you have for, like, how you feel strong about the family orientation? Maybe, I don't know, what you do with your nephew.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, I think, being raised like that, like family's everything, And I'll give a few examples because recently, like in high school, junior high school, I didn't really, or even college, my dad was in the Philippines. Like my dad's in the Philippines, so I didn't really get to spend much time with him growing up, right? But when I go back, and I think about it now, because we had a little mini reunion with some of my uncles recently in in Greenbelt, right? And like it was people from Canada, people from Australia, like all his cousins from Canada, Australia, some brothers, you know what I mean, of his, right? From around the Philippines. And I was like, oh, that's your tito or your uncle, right? That's your cousin from your lola's side, from your dad, from your lolo's side, right? and I was like, why's my dad emphasizing all this? Like, why? It's okay. Yeah.
How old were you then? So I'm
This
sorry.
was like last year, bro.
Oh, okay, last
right,
year.
right,
Okay, right.
But I was just like, and I was like, wow, it really hit me that family is huge to my dad, right? Because and here's the thing, like, my dad's so forgiving, right? Where there's times where some of his siblings kind of acted up, you know what I mean? And for me, I'm like, I'd be livid about certain things, right? Which I can't really go into detail, but, my dad's like, well, that's still my brother. So, I'm God's not sleeping. Like one of those, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, what he did was wrong. And it kind of like flipped my universe a little bit because I was just like, well, okay, that's great. So he's just gonna be like that. You know what I mean? But for him, for my dad, because it's family, right? And another thing is, like here, like growing up like that, like my brother, there's only me and my brother. There's only two of us. And like I treat his kids like they were my own kids, He has 3 children and and the cool thing is that I'm like the ninong to all of them, right? Because my brother's like, well, I don't know who else I'd want to be their ninong, like officially like that, right? And so I ninong to all 3 of them. And I mean, they have other ninongs, but I feel pretty like honored and blessed to like be able to be ninong to all 3 of them. And just the way I treat them like they're all my own kids, And I think it's just because growing up, my dad would always, instill in my head, like, hey, there's only 2 of you, take care of each other kind of deal. And like, because, growing up, you're going to have your little, sibling fights and stuff, want to punch each other, especially your boys and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, there's just 2 of you, got to take care of each other, And just on top of that, I mean, I have cousins in the Bay Area. And like, whenever they come down, man, like, as much as I'd love to like hang out with them, and when we were like little, we would spend the whole summer together, right? And now it's everybody has kids and families, but whenever we do get together, it's like nothing's changed.
It's so warm, huh?
Yeah, it's like we're like practically like best friends and brothers. You know what I mean? And that's what and coming from a huge family. Like, my dad has a lot of siblings. If I told you how many siblings he has, you'd probably be surprised. But he has 40 brothers and sisters from one lolo, right? And, yeah. So we have a big family.
Dude, I thought I was a hornball. But you're Lolo.
Rest in peace, Lolo.
Your grandfather.
Yeah.
Is the reason why we have Planned Parenthood. 40?
40. And I haven't met all of
40,
them.
40, listening audience.
Yeah. So they have a big family. And but I love it because sometimes we have like reunions. And there's one time, not everybody even made it, but we had a whole bus, bro.
Dude, your Lolo puts Mexicans to shame, dude. 40?
Yeah. 40. So.
A bus.
That's not even all of them, dude.
I'm sure.
That was just like the immediate, like, the immediate, like, ones that we kind of grew up with. You know what I mean?
See, I have like a huge Chinese family, which I just met in my mid-30s, early to mid-30s. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about it is the dynamic is completely different. Like, my dad is the black sheep, for you listening. My dad is the black sheep of the family. He's the one Chinese Filipino that had kids with a Filipino woman. Because for the Chinese, they'd rather you be with some Chinese.
Yeah.
Probably like the 3rd larger pharmaceutical company in Manila. So I am not affluent. My dad's family was. So whenever I met these people for a gathering, it was never like at someone's home. It was never someone cooking. It was always at a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Always at a Chinese restaurant or a high-end hotel buffet.
Yum.
So, yeah, that's another episode.
Yeah.
But my experience for that aspect is it's completely the stereotype of Joyla Club with the Chinese. We don't have, no one says, hey, kiss, kiss, love you. Didn't get any of that. And maybe because I was also the outside son, because I was an illegitimate child. I still am. And because my dad's first wife passed, and that's when we were welcomed, my dad brought us in. I was just like, do I just be me And you know me is sometimes not good for the conservatives. The intention is good, right, Russ?
Yeah.
But it's too much fish sauce.
That's a good way to put it.
And too much fish sauce with peppers. Bit by bit, yo. You know, I remember my dad giving me like this warning. He's all, they may not like you because you're not a millionaire. Just want to prepare you.
Wow.
They just don't be you yet. You know, so, but what they did appreciate was the way I consumed and listened to their conversation. Well, I don't know if they appreciated it, but I didn't ruffle feathers.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
For a better explanation. And they did like the fact that I appreciated the meal because I ate. Not like a dog with his fucking nose on the dog plate.
Yeah.
But I would be curious, like, oh, this is great. This is Peking duck. Okay, this is birthday miswa. Okay, this is great. They have peanuts. I wonder how they make the minced chicken. You know, I was just really curious, and it was really cold. But to experience that in the Philippines, where I'm in, you would think Chinese Filipinos would be just as warm as Filipinos. No, it's completely different.
Yeah.
The warmth that Russell is talking about is so strong. And sometimes you can take it for granted. But if you experience it with other cultures, it's like, oh, okay, this Filipino thing is special.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who has been post-spice trade by these goddamn Spaniards and Portuguese during the Magellan era of conquest are very warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I hate to harp on, and I'm not trying to parallel Mexican Americans and Mexicans, but I see it because I've been with Mexican girls. So it's completely enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's completely warm, and it's completely soulful. You know? So the forward slash to family oriented is respect our elders.
Right.
I'll let you define the good about respect your elders, and I'll be Darth Charles.
Darth Charles.
And we'll go into what's wrong with that. So let's break it down, brother.
Well, you know, with respecting your elders, I think it goes back to one of the things I really love is the mano po, which is you take your elder's hand and you place it on your forehead, right, as a sign of respect, right? And growing up, that's what I grew up to. I'd always do mano po to my lolo, my lola, whoever, like, you know. And then coming over to America, that kind of went away. But because my dad was a still big part of my life in my early years, we'd have like the weekend gatherings here, go to Cerritos, go to wherever, and go see my lola or whoever, right? And which is like my grandma's sister or my grandma's brothers or Lolo's brothers and sisters, and we do the mano po. And I think that was the first sign of me like learning about respect your elders, right? And then another thing, which I kind of see like the negative side to this too, but you don't talk back to your elders, meaning even if it's not even, for me, it's not even a sign of disrespect that you talk back as long as you're able to communicate with them on how you feel, right? But talking back is just a no-no. And you'd get palo, right? Spanked.
Or technically the derivative palo is stick from Spanish. Instead of them smacking you with a stick, then they spank you with a hand.
And, you know, and I have a lot of cousins and friends that probably can relate to this too, but we'd get palo with a belt or a hanger or chinelas, which is like a slipper, like a flip-flop. And, or a pingot, where
They pinch you?
Your ear, like they twist your ear, right? And it sounds abusive, like if you really think about it in 2018 terms, right? But I highly believe, like, you know,
It's our version of the switch.
the switch.
Like
Yeah.
for people who aren't aware what the switch is for black folks, they would tear off like almost like a branch with like thorns or anything that still protrudes, and they whack you over the leg.
Yeah, and I think not disrespecting your elders or respecting your elders, I would say is a huge part of our culture because even now, like like living in, I'm gonna say it again, living in the Philippines for the past 3 years, like my fiance Vici, like her brother, she has 3 brothers, but on weekends they see their mom, or on Sundays. And I love this about Vici. Like on Sundays, she knows it's my day with my dad, so I'll have church with dad and we'll have lunch, and she'll like. And sometimes in the beginning, I was like, I'd call her and like tell her like, "Hey, I'm here," or doing this. She's like, "Don't worry about me. Spend your day with your dad. Like just be with your dad." You know what I mean? And it was just so like just different for me. You know what I mean? Because I've always dated girls here from LA, and they never even thought about my parents like that. You know what I mean? Like some of them wanted all my time. You know what I mean? Which is, I get it, but like it was just refreshing to see like, wow, you actually give me like that room and that time to be with my parents, which is something that I'm really, and because Vici grew up in a strong Filipino upbringing, right?
And it's also, I feel like, Russ, and I'll keep you going.
Yeah.
I also feel like that's the difference between motherland flips versus maybe immigrant flips or first gen, second gen flips in America.
Wow, that's a huge point. Because I've dated a lot of Filipinos here in LA.
Me.
Right?
Me.
Yeah.
Me. Russ, me. Me.
It was suffocating, man. It was really suffocating, bro. Not like I didn't spend time with them, but man, like I'm the type of person that I want to make sure my parents are okay. So if you're gonna take me away from even a little bit of it, dude, that's, you know what I mean? I'm giving, like that's, you're absolutely on point with that me stuff. Me.
Yeah. So it's a good thing, right? To where you respect your elders.
Yeah.
Were you? So essentially, you didn't backtalk to your parents.
Oh, well, okay. So let me go into that part.
Okay.
So, being raised by a single mom, like my dad was always around, but he was in the Philippines, and he's always gonna be my dad, right? But I think when my dad went back when I was 13 years old, these are the years I'm going through high school, junior high and high school, right? And
teen formative years,
right? And I don't think, looking back, I never gave my mom, I was never the rebel. I was never like giving my mom a headache kind of deal. I learned, and my mom was great about it because I have a friendship with my mom where I could talk to her about anything, right? And I think that's so important for people listening out there. Like, like your kids aren't your slaves, or they're not like your, like
your lackeys.
Right? Like, you have to have a open dialogue, communication, relationship with your kids or your parents, vice versa. And that's what I had with my mom. But with my dad, when he left when I was 13, looking back, and I just moved there recently, and I'd see him during the summers, but it's not like a long period of time. Summers is fast. You're just hanging out, having fun, right? So when I moved back recently, and I'm so used to just speaking my mind now and communicating, my dad thought it was a form of talking back, because he still sees me as the little kid at 13 that the last time he spent time with me growing up, right? So I had to explain to my dad that I'm not trying to disrespect you. And it wasn't an easy conversation.
And this is recent for you who's listening.
Yeah, like a year or two ago, right? Like it was an opener for me, because I realized like my dad thinks I'm talking back to him because he's not used to me speaking my mind. But in no way was I trying to be disrespectful or show him that like he's not my dad or anything. It's just I had my own thoughts on certain things, and I just wanted to dialogue
Anything
about
you can
it.
share specifically, so that way we're going general, specific. That you guys at least one maybe lighter. If it's too much, that's fine. Just keep going.
I'm just trying to remember the incident, why it happened. But it was probably like something. Oh, probably something at
According to the business, like printing press. Maybe?
yeah, I think it was at work. Yeah, because we were at the off. Yeah, we were at the printing press, and I was just giving my thoughts on certain things, and I think my dad took it as I was showing signs of disrespect to him, and it could be a way where it's, he's still the owner, the boss, and stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm in no way I'm trying to like take away the, that hierarchy.
Making things easier.
Yeah, I'm just saying this is what I see. This is what I think needs to be improved. This is what I think is happening right now, and he like took it like, because I was like, asking questions. I'm used to asking questions if I don't understand something, right? And then he took it as, wait, what are you talking back? Like in Tagalog, right? I'm like, no, Dad, no, I'm not. Like, you gotta understand, like, I'm coming from a place where I want to better the situation, not trying to like pinpoint things on anybody, right? And I also had to remind him. I go, Dad, do you remember you sent me to a school where we were taught to speak our mind, right? I go, I don't think you spent that much money to just have me be the same Russell going in, right? For a side note, like, he sent me to this school called Flint Ridge Prep, where a lot of my classmates back then in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, it was a culture shock for me, because me being raised Filipino, we never really spoke up or spoke to our teachers in a certain way. And I started seeing my classmates like talk to the teachers like they're just like another classmate, like just another person. Not like, ma'am, sir, can I raise my hand and talk like that, right? No, it's more like, well, like they just speak their mind. And I think being exposed to that showed me like, hey, it's okay to speak your mind. You know what I mean? And so maybe in the Philippines, they take it if you speak up or you're loud about certain things, that it's kind of a threat. So I had to explain to my dad that it's not like that.
Okay. So as Russ set that up for me, and I'm going to go on my spew. I was like the first out of the cousins and children to get a tattoo. I only have one tattoo, but the fact that I even got one, it was like big. It was even controversial because it was written in both Filipino and Chinese historical writing. And it was my last name, Yao, because I was an illegitimate child. And it was so taboo to everyone because it's like, wait, you're admitting you're an illegitimate child, and then you're rubbing it in everyone's face.
Wow.
That you got Yao. So there was that dynamic already of like, when you're getting a tattoo, you shouldn't be like, dude, for us Gen Xers, people who got tattoos were like, you're like a criminal, especially in the Filipino culture, right? Like people who got tattoos in the early 90s. Like, I got this when it was right after high school.
Wow.
It was like symbolic. Got it in 1992.
Wow.
And that was a sense of like rebellion. The other sense of rebellion that was found disrespectful was I pursued radio.
Wow.
Pursued radio. And then my mom was supportive, but my brother and my dad did not like it at all. They're like, oh, you're not getting anywhere. And the ironic thing is, and I also openly smoke weed. You know that.
Yeah.
Like my mom would even just don't be a bad person. I understand that, hijo. But to my dad, that was found like, parents shouldn't do that because I said so. That's why you shouldn't do that. Because you don't explain anything. And I'll tie it into this podcast. It's like, you can say general things, but if your child goes, why? And if you just say, because I said so, you're not doing anything. You're almost abusing the privilege of your kids respecting you so much, but you need to be concrete and be explained. Or you need to explain what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Even when my mom got sick in 1996, so Blue Cross denied. She basically went to the Philippines, went on a fucking farm, and then her diabetes shot up, and then she got viral meningitis, which is a disease that starts from your spine and goes to your brain. So Blue Cross denied everything because on one of the past doctors, we never mentioned that she was diabetic, who helped. But we had paperwork that mentioned on previous doctors, we did mention she was diabetic. So we ended up owing like $130,000, dude, in hospital bills.
Wow.
So we ended up paying for the bills between me, my brother, and my dad in like a span of 3 years. Because if we paid for it, no, in 3.5 years. Because if we paid for it under 4 years, the government would give us a $20,000 grant. But at that point, I was like so resentful towards my dad because I was just like, the fuck? You just run things? You say because I said so, but when it came to help, who was helping the most? I was. I dropped school.
Wow.
Worked 3 jobs to put that in. The other thing, also in regards to this whole parental issue of being disrespectful, is I remember my dad did not approve of the radio thing. And my dad in 2015 got sick. He passed late July 2016. I was the one who stepped up. And I was the rebel child who always talked back. And I remember my dad writing a letter to my mom probably like in my mid-20s, like thinking, Derek will struggle, but he'll be okay. But Charlie is in a fantasy land doing this radio thing.
Wow.
He's going to go nowhere in life. And guess who ended up helping him the most? Wow. So for me, I feel like, and we'll go back into something general, what is seen as like white people letting kids talk back to them, it's a heavy plus minus, Russ.
It is.
Because in a way, it's like, why the fuck are your kids talking back to you?
Yeah.
But don't you feel there's a lot more successful whites compared to maybe Filipinos who have kids that are like non-talk back as far as for affluence? Like, I feel like those whites who have kids that talk back to them, they eventually learn and they go like, oh, it's a form of explanation, being a critical thinker. But with Filipinos, don't get me wrong, if you're a nurse and you're making that 70 to 80K, great. You know? But the whites who do that, who have kids who explain, they become upper management, middle management, or even higher in the corporate chain because they're so used to expressing something.
Right. Right.
Oh, what are your thoughts about that whole corporate thing that I just went on?
Well,
is it still bad?
No, I don't think it's bad to be able to express yourself and you know, speak your mind. You know what I mean? As long as, because there's a double-edged sword to that too. Meaning, you know, I think to do that, but to still come from a place of respect, that's the balance between it. Not just like, because I've seen both sides.
And they're both extreme, right?
Very, yeah. I've seen both sides where some people just want to, like, they'll say they're speaking their mind, but it's actually kind of like degrading and condescending. You know what I mean? I've seen that even in corporate America, right? Where my general manager was white, you know, and it sounded like he was just speaking his mind, but at the end of the day, it was kind of like putting some people down. You know what I mean? So,
and your general manager is white also?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know? So there is like that balance that I think that has to happen, but just for the purpose of this talk, you know, I don't see anything wrong with being able to openly communicate with your parents as far as, hey, I'm not disrespecting you, but this is how I feel and this is my thoughts on it, and just because it's different from yours doesn't make me a bad person.
Dude, I know people in their 40s where they can't tell their parents they got tattoos. There's a guy that I've trained with.
Really?
Like, he has his own house and everything, but he wears long sleeve shirts because he doesn't want his parents to know that he has tattoos.
Wow.
Like, they're like quarter sleeves.
Wow.
I know people where it's like, I have a girlfriend living with me, and they can't tell them. And like honestly, the great thing about living both in Spain and Singapore and in New York is when I decided to do my thing, I was like, well, fuck you. It's my money. I'm paying for my own education.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't say that, but
Yeah.
but I did say, well, what are you going to control me to?
Well, that's the key, because I don't think parents should be controlling their kids. You know what I mean? That's the key. Like,
And not enabling either.
no, yeah, it's absolutely. And I see that's a good point, because I see that now a lot. Like being a little bit older, like I see that there's so much entitlement nowadays with the little kids, and maybe we had it in our generation, but I just see a lot of it now. Meaning, they feel like I see it like the kids feel like the parents owe them something, and it's not like that. Or vice versa, where the parents think like they can raise them, and dictate what they're going to be when they grow up. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you could send your kids to school. You could send them to like private school, spend a lot on them, but at the end of the day, you gotta give them that freedom to live their life the way they want to live it.
And you know what, bro? I've seen kids who are controlled by their mom or dad,
Yeah.
and they can't pursue something that they want to pursue because they're stuck in like either they just want to do something out of convenience, they're scared to jump,
Yeah, dude.
or they're just conditioned to be in a box,
And
that's it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, Charles, like, it's the parents think they're doing good for their kids, but they gotta give them that room to live their own life. Meaning, they gotta fail, they gotta fall forward, they gotta experience some shit in their life, because that's gonna make them stronger. Because the parents aren't gonna be around forever. You know what I mean? And I see it. I've seen it a lot the past few years, actually, where, I'm in a business where like I interview a lot of people, right, in financial services. But dude, it's like they're in their 30s and the parents are still making the decisions for them.
Is this cross cultural from different races, or is this mostly Filipinos?
Mostly Filipino.
Ah,
Mostly Filipino, right? Well, maybe because, okay, I have to put a little disclosure on this, because maybe I just had that with a lot of Filipinos more than other cultures, right? But from what I'm seeing, man, is like the parents come here, they're first generation immigrants coming into America. They know the hardship that they had to deal with in the Philippines. That's why they came over to America, right? And now that they're making a good, decent living, or they were able to raise their kids in an environment where they were able to send them to private school or whatever, right? And the kids get to a point where they're actually trying to explore and branch out. The parents are still trying to make the decisions for them. And it's pretty scary, because that's really like, that saying with the butterfly, like if the butterfly comes out if he breaks his cocoon, he's going to come out strong. But if you break that cocoon for the butterfly, when he goes through, it comes out, his wings aren't going to be strong enough for him to fly, because he didn't have to endure the challenge to break the cocoon. Well, that's the same thing that's happening to a lot of kids nowadays.
and to go specific with an example, my mom was a housewife, right? So my dad did all the work. My mom worked probably no more than total for like a year in her life. And now with my dad's passing, we have two options. My mom gets a stipend monthly from my dad's company, and 90% of her medical bills are taken care of. So that's a good life in Manila, right? You can get a helper, you're done, you're taken care of. She just recently fractured her femur, so she's a little scared of being by herself. But the pressure that my mom is putting on to my brother and I is for one of us to move to Manila permanently, maybe start a business. And I'm thinking, why the fuck are you pressuring your kids to do that? Like literally change your life. Now, the option that my brother and I have presented is you just move back here. We'll take care of you. We'll watch you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, she knows like my word is law and I'm your mom. But I know you and I have recently discussed this behind the scenes. I'm going back this December, mid-November, to be with my mom, but I'm going to break the news to her in January. It's like, Mom, I can't live out here. I can't. You know, I had some investments and potential entertainment openings.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Right.
So for me, it's like I'm going to have to break to her. It's like, Mom, it's either you live in the U.S. or you deal with living out here, and we'll occasionally visit you, but you can't pressure me or my brother to jump ship and just change our lives.
Right.
And I think that's so old world for her to think that we can just start a business.
Yeah.
You guys made some money. Start a business. Just move. Just move.
Yeah.
And then, and I know you have a different feeling because you have a loved one, a father, and your father has a business. So there's a good magnetic pull.
Yes.
It's a beautiful magnetic pull, actually, because you're with your dad and your fiance. Another life. But you have a life here, too, that is very responsive. It's fast. It's career-oriented. And you're a mover and a shaker here. But for me, I just feel like between everything coming down, as far as for business-wise and people not being solid, plus my heart is in America.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, but I'm going to have to break the news to my mom and tell her, like, hey, I have to live in the U.S. No ifs and buts. You know, you have the option of my brother and I taking care of you here. But if you're out here in Manila, it's not like you're not taken care of. So that's an example of, you know, the parents sticking to their guns and my way or the highway.
Yeah.
You know?
Is it a Filipino thing? Or is it just a parental thing?
I want to say specifically a Filipino thing.
Specifically, huh?
Maybe even an Asiatic thing. Because
a
I
good
know a
one.
lot of the Chinese out here that are rich, they're still dependent on their parents. Or they've been provided by their parents.
Yeah, I see that. I see that even. Man, that's just gonna rattle some feathers in the Philippines, but I see that with a lot of the kids in Makati, man. You know what I mean? Like, they grew up in old money, like, where they don't even know how to work, bro. And then they try to, and I've
Astonishing, huh?
and I've seen this firsthand because there's actually a seminar that me and my dad attended that was sponsored by a Chinese company, right? Because a lot of the printing companies in the Philippines are Chinese. A lot of the big printers are Chinese, like Filipino Chinese, right? And so what they're realizing now in second, third, fourth generations is the first generation builds the business. The second generation grew up around the business, so they still had a feel of how to run it and grow it. But by the time the third generation comes, it usually, they lose it. And they've had so many examples of so many companies in the Philippines where by the time it got to the second, third, and fourth generation, it started dwindling because they didn't know how to transition the business from one to the next. And it's because they said that the first generation had to go through that adversity to make sure that they build a profitable company. But by the time the next generations came, they already knew nothing else but quote unquote the good life. So when it was time to make some decisions on how to grow the business or keep the business alive, they fucked up.
And that's the second gen's fault to an extent. I feel like you and I have talked about this for this podcast. It's because they spoiled their kids thinking, oh, it's love. But what you're forgetting is guidance.
Yeah.
Love and guidance are two different things.
Two different things.
And actually spoiling is not love.
No, it's not.
You're enabling.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why these spoiled kids, they're so scared to jump and do something what they really want to do. They're stuck.
They're paralyzed.
They're not. Russ, when I started this, you know what I said to myself? I said, I'm prepared to be poor. You see this? We're recording in my bedroom. This part of the wall. This is close to like 70 grand worth of equipment.
Wow.
But I mean, I was going to school, so I didn't have any income until my dad got sick.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget about that. I was going to school for 2.5 years to get all my certificates and joining this digital world.
Yeah.
And I was spending money while I was going to school. I was working on projects. I was applying what I was learning to plug 1, 2.
See, that's the key, Charles. Like, I feel like that's a rare trait because, I've studied a lot of successful people. Success isn't just about the money. It's also a journey. It's what you got to go through to achieve what you want to achieve in life, right? It's never spoon-fed. It's never going to be handed to you or given to you. Like, I mean, whether it's media, whether it's entertainment, whether it's financial services, personally, like, when me and my brother started in the financial services, we started from the ground up. We took a lot of rejection. We took a lot of hits from family, friends, relatives that thought we were stupid. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? They would even knock down our dream, right? But I think because you didn't listen to any of the outside forces that was trying to stop you from, following what you saw in the long term, right? Man, that, I believe, is why, the universe is going to back you up and everything's going to, and I already see it, but everything's in alignment. You know what I mean? And that's what I wish I can like teach a lot of the kids out there, because you know what? It doesn't matter what your parents tell you to be. You know what I mean?
Because they can only show and guide so much, right?
Yeah. It's like their parents love you. I get it. But if they're trying to protect you from falling and getting hurt, then that's not love. That's selfishness. You know what I mean? Because that's selfishness, because they're, in a way, they don't want to show people that their kids are failing in their eyes, because that makes them look bad. Right? But in the long run, if you gave your children that space and the freedom to explore the world, man, fall a few times, if like you've already raised their foundation from the ground, from the get-go, from when they were kids. So if like they're like solid on their foundation, and they're gonna eventually make it. Only God knows how long it's gonna take, right? Or the journey, but eventually, if they don't quit, they're gonna make it, no matter what they pursue. You know what I mean? Because the easy thing is, and this is gonna rattle some feathers out there. The easy thing is, hey man, let me just be a nurse and make that money. Right? Because I've heard, hey, and I'm saying this because I have a lot of clients and friends been in the medical field for over 10 years, and they regret it.
Because it wasn't what they wanted to pursue.
It wasn't and if they wanted to do it, kudos to them, right? But some of them did it for the money. But I believe, which is fine. It'll pay the bills. It'll send your kids to school, right? Whatever. But dude, deep down inside, they're looking for something else to like fulfill that thing that they were trying to get.
Your soul.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, it's a topic that's very like sensitive, because especially in the Filipino community, we're in the medical field a lot. I mean, there's so many. Even Joe Coy mentioned it recently about Filipinos and nurses, right? Because it's just like, oh, you're Filipino, are you a nurse? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because, hey, man, a lot of my good friends are nurses, and I know they're passionate about it. But I'm speaking about the ones that followed their parents' decision and became a nurse because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and it comes. I like what you're saying, because it comes from a template of A, B, C. But what if you're a D, E, F kind of guy?
Yeah.
What if your math is different?
Right.
And for the more fortunate, you have options. Let's say you wanted to be a graphic designer, and for some, it's kind of like with Instagram. or Airbnb, how those places were started, it came out of need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the girl who created Spanx, she wasn't satisfied with all the products out there, so she decided to make her own Spanx.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just about evolving and the people who are like in their 30s and 40s who have been supported their whole life by their parents, they're paralyzed, dude.
Yeah.
They're absolutely paralyzed.
Absolutely.
And it's almost engraved to where they can't move because they cannot afford not going to Europe. They cannot afford not having like a high-end vehicle. They cannot afford, and I see them and they're very passive aggressive. And that's a bad Filipino trait
Passive,
too.
yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like being hospitable, and we'll wrap like in 5 minutes, even though we have like a few.
This is a good topic. That's why.
Yeah.
I think it's a great topic. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like with hospitality, you know, sometimes people will be so nice, it's almost kiss-assy. But I've seen it to where they're so nice to someone, and then the moment they turn around, if they don't understand Filipino, they'd like curse them out or poke fun at them.
Yeah.
So it's like fake hospitality based out of passive aggression.
Well, man, you're just. I don't know. I don't think
that's a different.
I don't know if we can
podcast.
wrap this up in 5, but we're gonna.
Sure.
But I really believe like. And here's the thing. See, because you mentioned the 30s and 40s, and I've come into contact with some people recently in their 30s and 40s, right, where they've been working the past 20 years, right, and they feel like they're in a midlife crisis. They feel like their life is halfway over. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, man. I don't want to be around that because, dude, I'm 42, turning 43 in November, and hey, it hasn't been an easy journey, right? I didn't become a doctor like my lolo. I didn't become in a medical field. I didn't become a lawyer, right, or an accountant. I went the other route, the artist, the graphic designer route, which back in the day, that wasn't cool, man. You know what I mean? Back in the day, like, what's that? Like, Photoshop, what was that? You know what I mean? And I just happened to be blessed to even come into like the financial services part, which helped me learn about running a business and my money, right? Because I didn't know that growing up. I didn't know how to manage my money. I just knew I get a paycheck and I spend it. That's what I did.
And then maybe save some so you can buy a house.
I
and
did
then
it.
maybe save some.
Well, I did it.
Well,
No,
I'm
yeah.
just saying like that
Yeah.
you were taught. And
Yeah.
then you save.
Right.
You save.
Yeah. But I didn't realize like I wasn't managing it properly, right? I'd work. Hey, man, Charles, we're workaholics. You know what I mean? We could work day
Grind
and
away,
night.
dude.
You know what I mean? And but now, I think the powerful thing about pursuing something that you really love is you actually feel alive doing it. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not a mundane and there's nothing wrong with that for the people out there listening. I'm not bashing your job. You know what I mean?
No, do your thing.
Yeah,
That's your thing.
Yeah, I'm talking personal experience about me and Charles today. You know what I mean? Because I know the journey that Charles has had to go through to even, tackle naysayers, right? Tackle negativity, whether it's here or in Manila, right? But you know what? I believe, just keep pounding away and just keep hammering away, right? And eventually, when you look back, all the dots connect. You know what I mean? And I'm just talking now to the ones that, hey man, if you're out there listening and you feel like, you're at a midlife crisis or whatever, hey, life's not over, man. It's a new day. You could start today. Whatever it is you want to do, don't take it out on your kids. Don't try to live your life through your kids or whatever. You still have an opportunity to find some passion into something. Life isn't over at 40. You know what I mean? Because I see that a lot now, and a lot of people not a lot, but some people I've come into contact lately, they get depressed about oh man, where did their life go? Dude, every day above the ground is a good day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I always stress this on this show, Russ. Very excellent diatribe. There's a giant reset button.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be prepared to hit that reset button. And like anything, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
But if you're prepared to tackle this new endeavor, and I hope that also if two single guys tell parents how to fucking live their lives, right? The irony of the goddamn shit said on this podcast. But, it's about encouragement to progress.
Yeah, man. Like, we're not here to bash anyone, It's really just to open up and create awareness about these topics that we're talking about, because I think it's so important to empower, whether it's our Filipino culture, whether it's our community, it's people listening out there. Like, man, life's already tough as it is. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out life. There's no booklet on how to live your life, right? But, if this in any way is helping you out there, just remember, man, like what Charles said, there's a giant reset button. Today's a new day, man. You know what I mean? Like, dude, there's so many success stories. Like, I can go, Colonel Sanders, dude. How old was he when he freaking came up with KFC, bro? And now that company is worth billions, you know what I mean? Or if millions, maybe, right? All over the world, but it's like, it's never too late.
Here, I'll give you a radio black belt thing. It's called the tie-in, right?
Okay.
So you said Colonel Sanders KFC.
Uh-huh.
Jack Ma.
Yeah.
Applied to so many jobs. Got even rejected by KFC.
Imagine that.
Got rejected by, I think, 10 times by like Harvard University.
Wow.
And he's the founder of Alibaba in China.
It changed the economy, man.
So yeah, I mean, I think, but just to close, it's all fundamentally tied to parental upbringing. But if the moment you're aware and you don't do anything, it's your bad.
There you go. That's perfect right there. Because now that you know, you can't be blaming nobody about.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, it's like, okay, so what? You know what I mean? It's funny. I just gotta say this.
Sure.
A mentor of mine, like his name is JP, and I remember when I started working with him, I'd be a little whiner, dude, like a total whiner, like, oh, woe is me, blah blah blah.
Give me an example.
Oh, my car's broken. I don't know how to gonna pay for it. I won't be able to like get this done, kind of deal. Oh, my life sucks, right? My car broke down again. You know what he would say? Dude, get off the cross. We need the wood. Yep. Meaning, dude, stop it. You're not, it's like, stop it. Like, okay, so that's the situation. Now that you know, like, figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, because in the end, you sound like a little bitch.
Yeah.
Sound like a little puta bitch that's not willing to take accountability. And then, okay, now that you have the tools, put it together.
Exactly.
So that's second to the last episode. I'm going to close the episode on a solo venture. Please go to plug12.com. This for the month of October. We've been putting out these podcast episodes. It's not like people haven't spoken about the Filipino culture. We're not pioneering in anything. But the biggest progression about what I like is coming from a Sirius XM background where you do long form conversation. We try to reveal our failures. We try to reveal our faults, but also what we did in those failures and faults. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, hang on tight. The last episode's coming soon. Signing off with Russell, and it's Charles of Plug 12. Thank you.